So I just launched the Visual Studio 2022, and I get this little sign-in screen. I do have a Microsoft account, but I'm not going to sign in right now because I actually have more than one. So I'm going to go ahead and skip that. My next little step is to choose what I want for my color theme. And for recording purposes, I tend to like the lighter themes. As far as development settings, I think I'm just going to keep it on the default, although most of our development should be C# related, but I'm just going to keep it on general. And it does take a few moments to set everything up for the first use. Other than that, this should look fairly familiar. This looks like the 2019 version. One of the bigger changes in the 2022 version is that GitHub is built in, so we don't have to add an extension. And we'll go ahead and create a new project. And I am just following along in this little tutorial here. So let me display this over here. And I'll get my Visual Studio over here. So I'm going to create a new project. And it is searching. So I'm going to go ahead and key in the word council. Helps if you spell it right. Hopefully that will help direct my search. Because we're just going to be doing a simple little council application. So I'm going to pause the video here. Maybe that'll speed it up. Now we do want the C# council application. So if you limit the languages to C#, that could be helpful because there are all sorts of different types of council applications. And then we're going to go ahead and click on next. And what they want us to do is key in hello world for our project name. And we'll go ahead and click on next. .NET 6 is what we are working with, long-term support. In Visual Studio 2019, we had .NET 5. Okay, and so the long-term support is available for .NET 6, which is new with the 2022 version, and also for the MVC apps that we are going to be creating that are in .NET Core 3.1. There's long-term support for those as well. And we're going to go ahead and click on Create. And they did give us the option of doing this in Visual Basic or C#. We are using C#, so you can just kind of ignore any references to Visual Basic. And for those of you that are not familiar with Visual Studio, when it creates a project, it is actually creating several folders. It does a project folder, and inside that there are several additional folders, and there are also files that it is creating. So it is not unusual for it to take a minute or so to create the project. So once the project is created, you are going to see Visual Studio kind of open up. And you're going to see the Solution Explorer over here with the files. And I'm going to move this. And then you'll see that it has a line of code here, console.writeline, hello world. And that should look somewhat familiar to those of you familiar with C#. And so that's basically all this is doing so far. Now we are going to modify this just a little bit. In fact, we're going to replace the contents of the program CS, and you can see program CS is here, corresponding to that. We're going to enter the code from the tutorial, the namespace, and we're going to go ahead and put all of that code right over the top of this. And so hopefully you guys are somewhat familiar with this code. We have a namespace, hello world. Then we have a class that is just called a program. It only has one method in it, which is the main method. It takes a string array as an argument. And if you remember, this is the entry point for your application. It is called automatically when the program is run. And so we can go ahead and run the app. And you can click on the run button, and you can see that it starts a build. If you did make a typo, you should notice an error. Otherwise, you should see the console window display eventually. And so you should notice the console window display, assuming that everything went okay on your build. And mine is taking forever. It must be because I got this video running. Let me pause it again here. Alrighty, so I've waited all that time for this little hello world to display, but the good news is everything looks good. So to get rid of this window, I can just press the enter key or any other key. And at this point, we are going to add a little bit more to the application. And so I'm going to go ahead and pause while I put this code in here. So we replaced that little right line, hello world, with a few more lines of code. So basically it's going to display what is your name, Then we're going to read that in. We're going to store it in a variable called name. We are going to get the current date using the date time object, and we'll store it in current date. And then we're going to display the name, hello, followed by the name. And then we're going to do the current day and time. Then we're going to display our own little press any key to exit, and we're going to read in whatever they type. So I'm going to save this, and we'll run this again. And you'll notice the second time it runs, it should run a little faster. What is your name? Okay, a little more user-friendly output. And then there is our normal output. We'll press enter again. And the program stops. So at this point, we have created our little console app. Our next step is going to be to debug.